For the past couple of years, I have played through every Soulsborne game directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki. So here are my thoughts on every FromSoft Soulsborne game besides Dark Souls 2, because fuck Dark Souls 2. So I wanted to play the games in release order, so I started with Demon's Souls and ended with Elden Ring. I wanted to be able to experience the evolution of FromSoft games and see how they build off of each other. And I am so glad I decided to go this route. I'm gonna make a comparison that might not make sense to anyone else, but this is the first thing that came to my mind. Demon's Souls is like Night 1 of Minecraft. You got nothing. You don't really know what you're supposed to do, but you know at some point you'll be able to build some cool shit. So you build a small little dirt house with a single hole missing for a window, and you wait out the night until it's morning. You built the house, the foundation is there, but once you start getting better materials, you're gonna build that castle with a moat surrounding it, and a bridge to your friend's castle in the biome next over. Demon's Souls is the dirt house, and Elden Ring is the castle. You gotta get the basics down before you're ready to build. Maybe it's not fair to call Demon's Souls a dirt house because at the very least, this specific dirt house looks absolutely gorgeous. Bluepoint did a fantastic job with the visuals in the remake. Thanks PlayStation for killing the entire studio. But this was one hell of a game to look at and get immersed in. All of the areas look incredible, and it's still one of the best looking games on the PS5. When we start talking about the actual gameplay, in every category, this is the worst in the series. There are so many quality of life fixes that happen almost immediately in Dark Souls 1. Now, like Dark Souls 1, the real challenge are the actual areas, not the boss fights like in later games. Patience is the name of the game in all of these games, but it's such a core part of Demon's Souls because of two very annoying parts of the game. The first being the healing being consumables. I know they also do this with the blood vials in Bloodborne, but at least the blood vials made more sense within the context of the game. It was especially annoying to farm for heals in this game. And then there's the runbacks. If you haven't played Demon's Souls, each area has one bonfire. Let me say that one more time. Each area has one bonfire. This encourages you to fully explore the areas and find all of the shortcuts, but then you reach the boss and you die because, oh yeah, pretty much every boss has a specific gimmick that might take you a try or two to figure out. Now look, I'm a runback defender. I actually enjoy the runbacks in Dark Souls and Bloodborne. It has a certain charm to it, getting to learn the routes and clear your head before trying the boss again. But I just can't defend the runbacks in Demon's Souls. The runback in the Tunnel City to the Flame Lurker, specifically, haunts me to this day. This makes being patient all the more important. You gotta take out each enemy one by one until the job is finished. And at the end of the day, there's not really anything super memorable in this game. But it's still a solid time from start to finish. But, like I said earlier, Minecraft, dirt house, foundation. You gotta crawl before you can start dodge rolling. For most people, Dark Souls is the true beginning of it all. Dark Souls is the game that every other developer has tried to replicate. Keyword tried. There's a certain magic to Dark Souls 1. A world so empty and dead, but somehow so beautiful and alive. A game that challenges your mind and rewards your curiosity. The interconnected world of Dark Souls is almost a perfectly designed map. I say almost because the second half of the game definitely had areas that felt half-baked. I'm looking at you, Lost Izalith. But the first half of the game and its DLC stand toe-to-toe with anything FromSoft has made. These areas from the Undead Asylum all the way to in Orlando are just perfect. Yes, even Blighttown. And I'll stay on Blighttown for a second. This is arguably the hardest area, not because of the poison swamp at the bottom, it's because of the verticality. Blighttown is like that really old wooden roller coaster that you probably shouldn't get on, You hear it creaking, you see a nail sticking out of the side, but you're already at the theme park, so you might as well risk it. The Undead Burg and Undead Parish is where you learn how expertly designed these areas are, how dangerous they are to explore, but how rewarding the exploration truly is. Finding all of the shortcuts, finding that hidden bonfire, and going through a fog wall to fight a boss. I think a big reason why I love Dark Souls 1 so much is because of how memorable the areas are. Spoiler alert for later in the video, the Dark Souls 3 section will be shorter because I can't really recall specific areas and moments. More on that in a little bit. But Dark Souls 1 just stuck to me like Elmer's glue. It's just got so much soul, pun intended. The first time you discover the elevator from the Undead Parish back to Firelink Shrine, it might be one of the most satisfying moments in gaming. Getting a brief moment of comfort and realizing how connected these areas really are, adventuring through the trap-infested Sen's Fortress, running from a giant boulder like you're Indiana Jones, fighting the bell gargoyles as you realize there's a second gargoyle joining the fight. There are simply so many moments to recall. Then there's Norlondo, the most famous location in all of Dark Souls. It's beautiful, it's cinematic, it's not the end of the game, but it sure feels like the climax. Entire video essays are made solely about Norlondo. It's perfect. Well, almost perfect, because fuck those archers. There's challenging enemies, and it's just a fun area to explore, but it's also the mystery of the area. Where did everyone go? Why is this beautiful city without its people? I'm not the lore guy, so I don't have these answers, but it's cool to think about while you're playing. And if you're paying close attention, there are statues all over the place, and you'll probably wonder, who are these guys? Well, those guys are Ornstein and Smough, and they present the biggest challenge in the entire game. They're the bosses that force you to get good. I think if you played Elden Ring already, you wouldn't think anything of this duo. They don't move like the Godskin duo, but they behave unlike any other enemies you've faced thus far. And I just love the strategy of the fight. If you take out Ornstein first, then you gotta fight Lightning Smough. If you take out Smough first, you gotta fight Giant Ornstein. It's a true pick your poison moment, and it's so satisfying when you finally defeat them. This could have easily been the finale of the game. It's the peak of the game, and it's why I love Dark Souls. You're told to just kill a few beasts. Don't think too hard. Welcome to Bloodborne. While playing Bloodborne, it felt like this was the game where FromSoft really found their groove, striking an almost perfect balance of challenge and fun. Bloodborne has so much sauce, from the visuals to the weapons to the character designs. It all creates an atmosphere and a world that feels so unique and original. Bloodborne is a horror game, but unlike traditional horror games, you're encouraged to face the horrors head on. Thanks to the rally mechanic, you are constantly on the offensive. Getting to restore some of your health by dealing damage was a perfect way to teach players to stay aggressive and stay close to the enemies. There's definitely a part of me that thinks Bloodborne has the best combat in the series, but if I had to sit down and really rank each game's combat, Bloodborne would probably finish second or third. The trick weapons are so cool, and I wish I experimented with more of them. I mainly used the threaded cane and then switched to the hunter axe later on. If I ever get around to replaying, I will be trying out as many weapons as I can. Then of course, there are the firearms. Using the hunter pistol to not only take out enemies from afar, but also parry enemy attacks was huge. I love games with parry mechanics. I find it so much fun to master the timing of attacks and deliver a nasty parry counter. And parrying an attack with a gun has got to be the coolest way to parry in any game. The combination of the rally and parry set Bloodborne apart from every other FromSoft title. I think the reason why Bloodborne has remained a fan favorite is because of its unique world. I'm not going to act like I know all of the lore, I simply don't. But it's the art style, the enemy designs, the creepy sound effects, the boss music that all just completely immersed you into this world of Yharnam. And of course, I have to mention the amazing level design. Bloodborne is right up there with Dark Souls with its interconnected levels that will leave you amazed when all of the different areas start connecting to each other. Elden Ring's open world is arguably more impressive, but there's just something special about Yharnam. Before I move on, I have to mention the Old Hunters DLC. FromSoft is known for saving its most challenging areas and bosses for the DLC expansions. And it makes sense. Save your most challenging content for your most diehard fans. The Research Hall and Fishing Hamlet are among the hardest areas in the entire game, and they're filled with the hardest boss fights in the game and remain some of the most memorable and thrilling fights for me personally. Ludwig, Lady Maria, and Orphan of Kos are all some of the best boss fights FromSoft has ever created. I let out a huge sigh of relief after finally defeating each of them. These bosses' movements and its overall design feel like the blueprints for Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring bosses. There's just so much to love about Bloodborne. After playing all of the FromSoft titles and looking back on my time with all of them, it really feels like Dark Souls 3 was the training grounds for Elden Ring. The speed and flow of combat and the boss fights really feel like Elden Ring light, and I don't mean that in a negative way. But I think if someone started with Elden Ring and then asked which game should they play next, I would say if you want a similar experience to Elden Ring, then go play Dark Souls 3. The way the game feels and plays is such a natural stepping stone to Elden Ring. Dark Souls 3's level design is the most linear of the Soulsborne games, so Elden Ring fans might be disappointed by the more straightforward adventure you go on, but it's still a great time. I played most of these games over a year ago at this point, but for the most part I can recall specific moments from these games, but with Dark Souls 3 it kinda all feels like a blur. I don't know if that makes Dark Souls 3 the least memorable FromSoft game. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a fantastic time playing this game. The hours would melt away on a Saturday afternoon, and then suddenly I'd look and it'd be midnight in the blink of an eye. I was hooked on Dark Souls 3, but it feels like I got flashed with the Men in Black pen. My time with Dark Souls 3 can be best summarized by one word: bonk. DS3 is the game where I finally tried out a strength build, and boy oh boy, what a game changer that was. After obtaining Vort's Great Hammer, suddenly I felt like the boss. No longer was I Patient Pete. Like Bloodborne, I was on the offensive at all times. Besides a select few bosses, I was steamrolling everything and everyone. The Dancer of the Boreal Valley was easily the most challenging boss in the base game for me, and unsurprisingly, Sister Freed and Slave Knight Gale were both as hard as advertised. But besides that, I didn't really get to face much challenge, and maybe that's why it wasn't as memorable. I didn't feel like I needed to learn the boss runbacks or figure out how to best deal with the enemies in specific areas. And other than Boreal Valley and the Ringed City, I can't really recall any other areas all that well. All in all, Dark Souls 3 is a game that I had a blast playing in the moment, and I definitely like it more than Demon Souls, but it failed to really stick with me. I mentioned earlier about how much I love games with parry mechanics. FromSoft made an entire game built around the parry. That game is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. And after playing through all of the FromSoft Soulsborne titles, I can confidently say that Sekiro is my favorite FromSoft game. Sekiro is a game where I can close my eyes and think about it. I can visualize the boss attacks in my head. I can hear the sound of the parry. I can still hear Gyobu Masataka Oniwa tell me that I will not pass the castle gate. I can remember Genichiro jumping up in the air for the first time to throw his lightning attack as I panicked in fear. The frustration and rage from fighting the demon of hatred for hours. And of course, Ishin the Sword Saint, the final boss of the game, a fight that took me several hours over the course of multiple nights. A fight that left my parry finger shaking in between his attacks, but a fight that gave me so much satisfaction when I finally overcame him and mastered his attacks. Souls games are always about getting good, but there's so many alternate ways to cheese bosses or use summons or just use an overpowered weapon or build. Sekiro doesn't let you do any of that, and it forces the player to learn the attacks and master each fight. Surrounding the incredible combat, there's the signature FromSoft level design, there's a great art direction, great music. All of the things you've come to expect with FromSoft games are present here. It feels weird that Sekiro is the shortest part of the video considering it's my favorite, but I feel like I've said what I needed to say about the game. So yeah, if you haven't played Sekiro, go play Sekiro. My reward for beating Sekiro was the relaxing little cozy game called Elden Ring. Where do I even start with this game? Between the base game and Shadow of the Erdtree, I put well over 120 hours into this game. I took a little over a year to finish both the base game and DLC, and after spending so much time in the previous FromSoft games, I was so excited to finally get to Elden Ring. But for the first 20 to 40 hours, I felt like something was missing. Turns out, I was just burnt out from playing all of these games back to back to back. I got past Radahn and Caelid, and I decided to put the game down and play other games. I told myself I'd get back to it at the new year. And boy, did I get back to it. Upon my return, it felt like the magic was back and I was off to the races. For a lot of people, the boss fights are the real stars of the show, and I completely understand why. They're epic, adrenaline-filled spectacles that test your reflexes and patience, and I think that the final stretch of boss fights really put my skills to the test. Mohg and Malekith were both a blast to learn and overcome. Godfrey changing into Hoarah and coming at you with these Zangief-like grapples was such a fun time. Dragon Lord Placidusax has one of the sickest boss arenas in the entire game, and yes, Melania lived up to all the hype, proving to be a challenge that took me longer than any other boss fight. Then there's the boss fights in Shadow of the Erdtree, which somehow topped the base game for me. The difficulty was ramped up to 11 and pushed me to my limits. Some of my favorite bosses reside in the DLC, besides Consort Radahn. That dude chewed me up and spit me out, and forced me to finally use the Mimic tier to assist me. I got no shame in admitting it, and more power to you for beating him with no help. The DLC bosses that were my favorites would be the Divine Beast, Dancing Lion, Mesmer the Impaler, Midra, and Baal the Dread. Baal the Dread was by far the best dragon boss fight FromSoft ever created. This game is just loaded with iconic and memorable boss fights, and you could fill an entire top 10 boss fights only with Elden Ring bosses. So yeah, boss fights are awesome, but for me, my favorite part of the Soulsborne games is the exploration. It's the journey you go on, discovering hidden areas, finding shortcuts, and letting your curiosity take you on an epic journey. And that's what Elden Ring is. It's an epic journey, and the exploration is second to none. It's probably the best exploration in any video game ever made. And the exploration, in my opinion, is even better in Shadow of the Erdtree because of the Shadow Tree fragments. You need these fragments to upgrade your damage and health, so you're encouraged even more to get lost in this incredible world. There are just so many moments in this game where you open up a giant door and come out to a new massive area with a beautiful view of the landscape. It's a blessing in disguise that there's no photo mode, because I would have taken even longer to finish this game. Elden Ring is the culmination of everything FromSoft and Miyazaki have been working towards for over a decade. Being able to successfully translate the Souls formula to a giant open world was an incredible achievement. Dark Souls inspired a whole subgenre of games, and I fully expect Elden likes to start appearing in the coming years. These are some of my favorite games I've ever played. The sense of reward and accomplishment you get from finishing these games is unlike most games. It feels weird not having another FromSoft game to play. Of course there's Night Rain, and while I've had moments of fun playing it, it's still not what I'm looking for from a FromSoft game. Which means we now turn our attentions towards the future, and in the future lies the Duskbloods, the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive FromSoft game that is going to be a PvPvE game. The vibe of the game looks awesome, and I'm definitely excited and will be playing on day one. However, I am a little nervous about how the game is going to work. As someone who's never been a big PvP player in these games, I'm hoping there's a good balance between PvP and PvE encounters. And I wonder which way the community will lean. Will players join forces to take down bosses, or will players give in to the dark urges and fight other players on sight? I'm sure we will learn more information over the next couple of months as we get closer to an eventual release date. Personally, I'm most excited for whenever FromSoft announces their next big single-player game, whether it be Dark Souls 4, Elden Ring 2, or something entirely new. I will be eagerly anticipating whatever adventure awaits.